Well, tell me. All right.
Well, you know, I was in the office one day, and I was walking around with one side of my collar up most of the day. When I finally saw, when I went to the restroom and saw it, I said, well, dang, my whole opinion of everybody went down. Nobody told me my shirt wasn't right.
Oh no, that's not good.
That wasn't good.
Later, I'll have to tell you about another private story when we're talking personally about something that happens.
No worries, no worries. So I had to have you look as sharp as possible, brother.
I appreciate that. I appreciate that.
So Tony,
one more time for me.
Bonaris.
Bonaris.
Yeah, just get rid of the G.
Okay.
Just think of ball, or else B-O-N. B-O-N-N-E-R-R-E-S-E. Like the Reese's candy. Bonaris.
We are missing Devante.
Devonte's on. He's there.
I mean, oh, I just can't see him. Okay, gotcha.
Yeah.
He's a ghost.
All right, good deal. Lowe's is up to you now.
Okay,
we have a Tony. We have Waka on right now.
Yeah, he's on. We were just talking.
Yes, I'm on.
Okay, sorry.
Okay, so we're gonna go live in 10 seconds. So everyone can mute yourselves.
Cool.
Except for Tony.
Like we got another hour left in the day.
Waka, can you mute yourself?
Okay.
Okay. Good, Tony.
Thank you all for joining our town hall meeting today, a very important town hall. Today, we're going to be talking about criminal justice reform and Prop 25. We're less than 30 days away from a very important election across our country. And today we have some very important people that are going to be discussing Prop 25 and criminal justice reform. Our first person really needs an introduction is Waka Flocka. Waka, why don't you tell us a little about yourself and about some of your position on Prop 25 on criminal justice reform?
How y'all doing? I'm Waka Flocka. I'm one of 5 kids of a single mother. Music artist, philanthropist. Man, if we talking criminal justice, I'm gonna get right into it. It's built on protect and serve. And it's obvious that we don't see people protecting and serving. We see them enforcing. This is people that this is energy that people is enforcing the law. When you running with a slogan that say protect and serve, if you protecting and serving a crowd of people that's complaining about you, about the job that y'all doing, then y'all not protecting and serving us. Y'all making us uncomfortable walking our own neighborhood. Like that gotta change. And our freedom is built off of oppression. If you sit here and think about what's going on every time you cut your TV on, that's people being oppressed. And you got your freedom come off it's basically coming up oppression. Like I don't want to sound like a bad guy, but it's
No, you're not a bad guy at all. What do you think? What do you think are some of the answers that we need to look to basically implement?
Some of these answers is, and I had to sit here and think. This is something I had to think about, right? If you say, all right, police stay out here to protect and serve and stop criminals and this, that, and the third, some of these police have mental issues. Because if you look at it from a scientific perspective, if you're a human being that answers to rape calls, killings, murders, robberies, I'm talking about more than 10 times a day, 5 times a day for 10 years plus, what did that do to your mentality? How did that make you? I think these cops need to be evaluated every so months. These cops need to really be drug tested every so months. Like these cops, these cops, it's just, trust me, and I'm not saying all cops are bad cops. I had friends that in high school that I was surprised that became a cop. I'm like, how the hell did you become a cop? Like and these people got and a lot of people have mental issues. Not the people I said I know, but I know in general that police really have mental issues. They need help. I think they need just enough as help as the people that they're oppressing. Police are just enforcing law, man. I think it ain't like that no more. You don't see a kid want to be a cop today. Hell, no, sir. No way. It's not like that no more. Oh, no.
You're absolutely right. I want to bring in Devante Hill. Devonte is a gentleman that I happened to meet last week. He's a good brother out of Memphis, Tennessee. And before I bring him on, there's some tape I'd like to play, and we will talk about him on the other side.
Chains off, man. All we wanna do is be free. All we wanna do is be free. All we wanna do is be free. I'm letting you know we all alone.
In our school. You guys tonight, you guys are making a statement with your presence here that you come to destroy systemic racism on all levels.
All the sense so bloody, they can see it in my eyes. My mama, don't get look how I'm living now. This is America.
27-year-old Devante Hill, leader of multiple peaceful protests in Memphis, describes talks with Mayor Jim Strickland, Shelby County Mayor Lee Harris, Police Director Mike Rollins, and Shelby County Sheriff Floyd Bonner, along with community stakeholders, as positive.
The city is going to adopt the Breonna Taylor no-knock warrant ban.
Taylor is the Louisville EMT shot and killed in her own home when police entered without knocking.
Which means that officers will not have the ability to make the mistake that happened in Louisville, Kentucky.
Hill says another policy change being discussed, preventing police from firing at a moving vehicle.
We don't want to take the safety away from the officer, but we also want to create scenarios where the officer isn't escalating the situation immediately based on their ability to say that their life was in danger or threatened.
Devonte, that's some good stuff you're doing there in Memphis. And tell us a little about yourself and some of the stuff you're doing about criminal justice reform in Memphis.
Sure. So I'm Devante Hill. I live in Memphis, Tennessee, born and raised Memphis, Tennessee. If I'm not mistaken, I think Walker got some roots down here in Memphis, if I'm not mistaken. Just been on the ground, boots to the ground, just making it happen here in Memphis. I went to DC a few years ago to do school at Howard University. I ended up being an employee for my local congressman here in Memphis, but I worked in the DC office. And I just started to understand policy change. I started to understand the processes of pushing legislation through. But I also saw disparities that were happening in Memphis. And so I was compelled to move back home and to be a part of that change that was transpiring in Memphis. So since 2016, we have just held magnanimous demonstrations. And when I say magnanimous, they have been magnanimous from leading 5,000 people peacefully onto the Memphis DeSoto Bridge. After having a conversation with my mentor, John Lewis, he stressed the importance of making the message clear, making the message crystal, and making sure that the message was peaceful. And we've received some criticisms for being peaceful, but we have treaded such a trailblaze for change and progression and our ability to see forward and not put so much of our emotions into what's behind us, but how do we trailblaze forward? Obviously, the paradigm shift is much different today than it has ever been before. Throughout the history and the era of the civil rights movement, we have never seen, and I'm a frank person, I'm an honest person, but we've never seen such a large outcry from our white brothers and our white sisters, our allies, for advocating, for defending Black lives. We see it in our health system. We see it in our educational system. We see it, of course, in our judicial system. We even see it in our economical system, our social climates. We see racism, and it exists. And I think right now is the moment for us to move strategically, for us to create this momentum that we're garnering at this moment, and to shift that narrative and create the new nation and the culture that we see and we would want our children to experience.
That sounds like good stuff. What got you involved to this point? What made you want to get involved?
Truthfully, I was 2000, I guess that was 2015 or so, during the Freddie Gray Baltimore riots. Of course, I'm a son of Dr. Jamal Bryant, the pastor in Atlanta, Georgia, at New Birth. a godson of Dr. Jamal Bryant, and being under his tutelage while he was in Baltimore exposed me to representatives like Elijah Cummings and representatives like John Lewis and Sheila Jackson Lee and our civil rights trailblazers that exist within our legislations. And during the Freddie Gray Baltimore riots, there was a call for young clergy members to go out and be advocations of peace, because at the time, I don't know if you guys remember, but children had left school. These are children that had left school, and they were coming face to face with full armed police officers. I don't know if you guys remember seeing the big CVS that went up in flames during the Freddie Gray Baltimore riots. But in that moment, as a vehicle of peace and understanding of both sides, but also an advocator of justice and an advocator of equality, I was mistakenly maced in the face by the Baltimore Police Department. They sprayed a whole can of bear mace into my face, and I was assaulted. I was not only assaulted, but I was almost arrested until one of the officers recognized that, that I was one of the peaceful people. And so from that moment, just that moment of just implicit bias, me being Black, me being in a hoodie, and me being just among those that they were already in fear of, it just, recreated the flame that we've got to figure this out, and we've got to figure it out soon. And if we don't, we'll find ourselves repeating history and repeating the Jim Crow era.
Good stuff, good stuff. Walker, are you there? Did we lose Walker?
No, I'm here.
I know you got to go here shortly, but I wanted to ask you, do you see light at the end of the tunnel? I mean, we've had these movements this year. We've had, so many peaceful protests in so many different cities. Do you see the light at the end of the tunnel? Where do we go from here?
Honestly, man, I got pure faith, but I gotta respect facts. And the fact of the matter is, I just left my neighborhood that I shot my first jump shot in. I sat at the same table that I learned how to play chess at. I walked in the same pond that was a fake pool, and it looks the same. Nothing changes. Same store owners, same thing going on, same kind of neighborhood leaders. It's just now it's younger ones, the older ones, they financially ran into crisis, or they ended up, sorry to say this, they end up becoming smokers, doing drugs. They end up, to me, I don't see change unless we change and we stop begging. When we look amongst each other and see the power into really what is true power? What are we actually fighting for? How do what was it? Hillary Clinton had 67 to 57% Black votes and still lost? How powerful is our vote? What does registering mean? What does voting mean? We have no literacy. I think the day things are changed when we all have literacy. We have arguments. I see people that's arguing together, right? One guy know more than the other guy, but they both saying the right. It's just like we have no literacy. I was telling I was telling Ralph the other day, my investment bank, I'm like, yo, I didn't even know how to open a bank account till I started rapping. And my mother is Deborah Anthony with $1 million company. I went in the Bank of America like, yo, cash my $98,000 check. They're like, Walker, hey, sir, I like you. Like, the bank manager said, look, this is not how you do it, Walker. Let me show you how to do it. And right then and there, I thought they was being racist. No, y'all just doing that because you don't understand. Like, and me looking back at the old me, that's a clown.
Hey, Walker, I'll add some context to what you're saying because it's so factual. The top, what the country calls the top most dangerous cities in the country, the 6 most top dangerous cities in the country, to which Memphis is a part of that, because I deal with facts and deal with numbers and statistical data, to which Memphis is also on that list, Walker. We see that there's a similarity between all these cities. 70% on average, 70% of the crime that happens among African Americans in these cities are between 2 African Americans who domestically know each other. They were cousins, they were friends, they were family, and they had an irreconcilable difference, and one ended up injuring another. The psychiatrists and psychologists have just concluded that there is just a terrible, terrible toxic nature of a lack of the ability to communicate within the Black community. And I think that rests upon the requirement for us to get up every day, be at work on time, make sure the kids get food, make sure to where we are not as socially, we ain't got time. We just ain't got time, just frankly.
No, we don't. We
We
don't.
just don't have, because we've been
We don't.
forced to live into a society that has not created space and opportunity for us to build our families. We've just been forced into survival. Think we're 400 years behind on education. We were here 400 years before they said, you know what, maybe you guys ought to be able to learn how to read. You see what I'm saying? We have just been behind. We've been forced into a system, and I don't think legislators, and I don't think we've had a president just yet. I love President Barack Obama, but I don't think we've had a president just yet who has aggressively attacked systemic racism that was rooted in our educational system, because that's where our literacy comes from.
Exactly. And let me build on that. See, I like building on things. I was talking to my friends. I said, look, let's take out the fact that 400 years ago, slavery, right? Let's build on your family. Like me personally, my grandmother didn't go to high school. She barely finished middle school. She do not know how to drive a car. She raised 8 kids, though, in the house. Some of her kids went with a degree. Some of it, 1 or 2 of them went to college. Same like the grandkids. Now look at her grandson, like Waka Flocka. So if you look at your family history and see where you came from as a family, that's the problem. I think we don't investigate our own. We don't look into our own family like, yo, let's see some of the habits we doing. That's literacy. I had to go back to habits. I had to see like toxic environments. Like I never sat at a table, ate chicken and cornbread and yams and talked about finance literacy. I never sat there and say, yo, everybody in the family, let's put up $20 every month. I never said that. I never said, hey, let's go open up an insurance company. Hey, let's get this trust going. Hey, because we never knew that.
This
so it goes
important.
It's so like he's from Memphis. My career is built from Memphis, Chicago. I know Memphis. Excuse me for the dark. I'm just it's dark. But Memphis, I went to Memphis. People was like, hey, Walker, it's crazy. Don't go out there. But I understood their pain, their problem, their sorrow, they fight. I hung with guys that literally, this is what they said, that guys was killing guys from each neighborhood. And I had them all in one video, all in the club, all night, after hours, no fights, no shooting, no nothing. You know why? Because we all seen the end goal. They seen that it was somebody there giving them hope, showing, and I'm here. I'm not telling them, hey, let's go buy weed. No, we ain't got to do that, my boy. If all y'all right here, it's 30 of us standing right here. If all 30 of y'all put $500 up, times that by 30 people, how much money you got? Like, if you got to break it down to people, I keep telling people, y'all don't want to be millionaires, man. You don't want to be millionaires. I say, look at here, man. If you can make two grand a month, I mean, excuse me, not 2 grand, $4,000 a month, 5 grand a month, times that by 12. Is that even $250,000? Wouldn't you be happy with that? That's the difference. Like you have to break stuff down to people. A lot of people not financially hurt. People just got terrible spending habits.
No, you're absolutely right. I mean, it's a problem that we definitely need to look at and address, and it's a problem. It's a very good problem, and a part of some of the things that we're doing at Equal Justice Now is we're looking into things like that so we can address those things. We can go into communities and talk about those issues and educate people. And it's all about education at the end of the day. I want to thank you, Walker. I know you got to go. I know we only had you for 15 minutes here. We appreciate you coming on. We're going to move on to our next segment, which is Prop 25. And I believe Devonte, you're staying with us on this next segment as well. I appreciate that. We're talking now about Prop 25. Prop 25 is a proposition that it's out of California. And today we're going to be discussing the pros and cons of Prop 25. We've assembled some of the bright minds to discuss this topic from across the country. First, I want to introduce Jules Bonaris. Jules, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself and what you do there in California, and talk about Prop 25 a little bit. I think you got to mute it.
Thank you very much. If I can, I want to kind of put a little button on what was just said.
Sure.
In terms of criminal justice reform.
Uh-huh.
let me just say this. You cannot have community policing when the police are legally able to lie to you. Community policing cannot exist in an environment of distrust. And so a change that needs to take place is that the police need to be prohibited from lying to you. If they lie to you, they need to be disciplined. Let me give you an example. From kindergarten to 5th grade, the police are able to lie to children. If there is an altercation that takes place on the campus, all the police officer has to say to that child is, listen, I spoke with your mother. She told me I could ask you these questions, and I'm just trying to get some answers, and nothing that I'm telling you is going to cause you any harm. That child who has been taught to respect and to honor that police officer begins telling everything they know, stuff that can be used against them, stuff that can be used against the person that they're saying it about. And it's because the police can go into an elementary school and lie to children. Now take that to junior high school, take that to high school or middle school and high school. If the police can lie to you, eventually you discover, you can't tell the truth. Because if you do, it could be used against you. So if we want community policing, then the police have to be prohibited from lying to you. There needs to be state statute passed that says they cannot lie to you. Now, it may be difficult to get it done. So at least let's start off with elementary school. Let's let the police stop lying to elementary school students. That's where I think the first place to start. And coupled with that is this. Either the police stop lying, or no one will tell on somebody else, even when they have the information. In other words, there's going to be no snitching until there's no lying. If we approach it in this way, we're going to get change, because the whole criminal justice system lives or dies based upon witnesses. And so if the police want witnesses, they're going to have to stop lying. That's what I just wanted to say in terms of criminal justice.
I like that. I like that. And I would like to later on hear what Glenn Jonas has to say about that. He's an attorney, civil rights attorney, and when we bring him in, I would like to hear what he has to say about that. I think that's a very good point. Very, very good point. We also have Topo Padilla. Topo Padilla, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself, and why don't you tell us a little bit about Prop 25?
Okay, well, thank you all for having me here. And I have to say, I've been in the bail bond industry for over 37 years. My mom been in it for over 40. And people look at our industry in many different lenses. And I have to say, what the two gentlemen just talked about, and the third gentleman as well, you can see my skin color. I'm Mexican, but that doesn't matter. The fact of the matter is that I've been involved in these communities of color. I've talked to these kids, the parents, the grandparents, and there is solutions. Throwing money at a solution is not the solution. One of the gentlemen did allude to it. We need to fix the family. My dad says that day in and day out, fix the family. And if we can do that, and if we can get all these athletes and all these people with money that in this platform to help us fix that, we will have a good solution and a good start. So I appreciated that discussion. I could go on with that for about an hour. So as a bail agent, I could go on for a very long time, but I've summed it up. And I want to tell everybody what's very important about Proposition 25. Proposition 25 was born from SB 10. SB 10 was a law that was passed through the California legislature. And then it was an emotional law because When it was done, it was aimed at getting rid of the bail industry because people were poor and people couldn't afford to get out of jail. And they said that 63% of the people in our county jails were there because they were poor. So it was very, very emotional. And then they created this law and this language, and not too many people looked at the law and the language. I'm going to be very honest with you, especially some of the civic groups, because as this law or this bill went through the legislature, we started trying to talk to the people on the other side that were opposing us and trying to educate them. And as we did, we saw more and more of those groups going, wait a minute, that's not what they told us. They said we're going to get rid of the bail industry so people didn't have to bail out of jail, but they didn't tell us what the unintended consequences were. And we educated the people on that. And as this thing went through, and I just want to say, if I can, how did we get here? We got here because the bail schedules in California are obnoxious. They're extremely high. They are used as a form of punishment. I can tell you this, my association and myself since 2008 have worked to try and lower the bail schedules in California because we know they're ridiculous. We know they're wrong. We know they're punitive. We know that DAs use them to keep people in custody. Sometimes for public safety, but sometimes for strategical reasons. So the fact of the matter is that's why they want to get rid of us. But what people did not realize, and if people would, I beg people, anybody who's watching this or listening to this, and all of us, go through and read SB 10. I just do that. I do that before I do any one of these. I go through and read SB 10 and I remind myself of some of the danger that people don't realize about SB 10. So what SB 10 does, and if Proposition 25 does pass, is it eliminates a judge's ability to set a monetary bond. Now, some people might say that's a victory. That's great. Judges can't set a monetary bond. There it goes, and people that are poor will not be able to, they won't have to pay to get out of jail. But what they don't understand is that the gauntlet that they will have to go through to get out of jail, and that gauntlet consists of questionnaires that people will be asked that are arrested, and then they're going to use computer-based historical data, criminal history and information like that. And then that is going to create a computer-based algorithm. And this computer-based algorithm John Arnold probably created the most famous one, and that's why I think he's dumped over $5 million into Prop 25. Yes, he created this algorithm that he says can formulate whether or not somebody will go to court. It can also formulate whether or not somebody will go out and commit a crime. I don't say another crime, but they do. I say a crime, whether they're going to go out and commit a crime. And they say they have this system that'll do it. Well, if you take those factors and you put them into this computer-based algorithm, and then it'll be handed to a judge, and then a judge, and this is nothing against judges, a judge will then make the sole decision on whether that person will be released or not. And what people are not realizing, and if you read SB 10, that's fine. That judge can decide whether he's going to release him or not. If he doesn't release him, I always say there's no emergency parachute cord to pull in a bail bond. It's gone. The constitutional right for somebody to bail out of jail is gone. That judge was I don't want to use the word executioner, the executioner of your bond is done and gone, and you're staying in jail. And what people don't realize, and I'll sum it up with this on SB 10, and I just read it again, and there's several subdivisions. If you violated terms and conditions of pretrial risk assessment, you will not be released. If you have a violent felony in the past 5 years, you will not be released. If you have a domestic violence, misdemeanor or felony, you will not be released. So, and the list goes on. Trust me when I say this, you're gonna wanna, when you get off this today or tomorrow, you're gonna wanna read SB 10 and look in the guts of it. Because here's what I'm going to close this up with and say, and I am not using it, and it irks my jaw because somebody said, well, you're using that to spin this thing to get the African-American community to vote for you. And I say, well, they use the word money bail against me. They use that word so viciously, like it's a coarse thing. That's like saying money doctor, money car salesman, money car insurance, or money lawyer. What the hell? Money. Don't use money. It's called a bail bond. I debated the sitting district attorney of Contra Costa County the other day, and she used that word. It was about the 9th time, and she was a retired judge. And about the 9th time, I said, Your Honor, would you please quit using that word? You and I both know that is not a word that is in the legislature. It's not in our penal code books. It's not there. It doesn't exist. It's a keyword that you're using. Please stop using it. And she continued to use it the rest of the thing. With all due respect, I find it offensive because what they're not telling people is this. These algorithms have been shown to be racially biased across this country where they are being used. And the people from these groups that are representing the African-American community and minorities like myself think that they're going to help their people in their communities when in fact, more people are going to be left in jail because more people are not going to qualify because of what is contained in SB 10 and the algorithms and it being left up to a judge. So thank you. I mean, again, I could go on about this, but I think the most powerful thing you can do is read SB 10.
Well, thank you. One of the things that, you know, and in all fairness, we did invite the people for Yes on 25, and they backed out at the last minute. So the invitation still stands for them to come to this forum to talk about Prop 25 because we think it's important to talk about. It's important, but on their side, they say that people cannot afford to get out of jail. And they say people like you are predators and you prey on them. What do you say about that?
Well, I first and foremost say this, and thank you for that question because I skipped over it because I want to, you know, in respect for time. We don't set the bail schedules. The judges do. The reason we are in this problem in the state of California is because the judges in California keep raising the bail schedules. They keep raising them and raising them and raising. So they said it's unaffordable and that we're $1 billion industry and all that. I'm not. My family's not. When we're in this business, the risk is not worth the reward in what we do, but we love what we do because we help people exercise their constitutional right to bail. We help their families, we help them get their lives back in order. And so when people say that about money and they use that people are poor, I just, it irks me and it makes me sick to my stomach because we're not the problem. The bail schedules are the problem. And that's what needs to be fixed in California. We've tried.
Can you explain what a bail schedule is?
Yes, ma'am, I will. Tony, bail schedules are set in each county. So all 58 counties in California, bail schedules are set by a committee of judges for each county. For instance, we don't want the same bail schedules, and I'm gonna respect what you said, a bail schedule. So when somebody's booked into jail, there's a binder in there. And it'd say if they're arrested for receiving stolen property, their bail, according to the bail schedule, is $10,000. If they're arrested for domestic violence, the bail is $50,000. That allows the arresting officer to set bail at that moment so that from that moment until that person goes to court, they could exercise a constitutional right to bail. That is what a bail schedule is. And bail amounts are bail schedules. So they're one and the same. It's just that the schedule is what booking deputies or officers use to set a bail right when somebody's arrested.
So it's an interim bond.
Yeah, that is a way to look at it. And you know what, Crystal, I want to say this to you. I'm so appreciative of you using that word because I have been in court. And again, having done this as long as I have, I've been in court and I've heard the word bail schedule used by district attorneys and by judges and by defense attorneys trying to say, hey, you know, the bail schedule's here, but that's, and I said to the judge several times, I've said, Your Honor, today can we use the judge schedule? And I mean that from my heart. I really mean that. Your Honor, you're here. This man's here. His criminal arrest history has been read to you. You've understood what some of the facts of this case are. Can we use your judgment? But I say this, and this will irk some judges, that it's political cover for them, with all due respect. Judges do have to run for a re-election. And about the time judges are seen as lowering bail, lowering bail, lowering bail, they're afraid of the political ramifications that it might come from that. And we have to get past that. We all have to get past that.
Absolutely. No, thank you. I thought it was important that we have some bail people on this podcast to hear exactly from you. And that was good to hear how you defined and explained it, what a bail schedule is and what bail is. My next guest is Glenn Jonas. He is a civil rights attorney. And we have some tape I want to play. I met him. A friend of mine sent me this video of him, and when she sent it to me, and I looked at it, and I was like, "Wow, he's very opinionated. He's got a really strong opinion of Prop 25 and bail." And so we reached out for him. We got him. He's here today, and I want to play this tape, and we'll talk to him on the other side.
Mediocre Man Channel. Once again, we are off subject today. My name is Glenn Jonas. I'm a civil rights attorney. I'm also a criminal defense attorney, and I'm going to tell you why Proposition 25, the no bail proposition, is stupid. And if you vote for it, you're going to regret it. You're going to deeply regret it.
Very strong words, my friend. Glenn Jonas, tell us a little about yourself and what made you want to do that video.
All right, so I'm a civil rights attorney. I'm also a criminal defense attorney. And if you strip away everything and take it down to the most basic aspect, right? Strip away economics, strip away race, minority, all the other issues, and just get to the most fundamental aspect of our criminal justice system, which is you haven't been convicted of a crime until you're proven guilty beyond a reasonable doubt, right? That's the most basic foundation. But for the purposes of pretrial detention, you're presumed guilty. And what that means is you could lose your job, you could lose your business, you can lose your relationship with your kids simply by being accused of something, right? You dovetail that into your earlier discussion when we're talking about criminal justice reform. Let me tell you the most basic thing that can happen to you when you get arrested, okay? And there's a legal term for it. It's called getting pencil fucked. And what that means is a police officer writes a narrative in that report that doesn't resemble reality. And so if you're then accused of a crime that's among the list of detained offenses, what that means is forgetting the algorithm, forgetting the judicial discretion, you're detained now. You're not getting out. So let's take domestic violence, for example. That's one of the most, and this may be politically incorrect, but I know from my own empirical experience, there's a lot of false accusations of domestic violence for the purposes of getting an advantage in a custody battle, for example. So now all that has to happen is, hey, he hit me. No, I didn't. I say you did. Then there's an arrest. You're now detained. Now to get to trial on a felony, the minimum, right? The minimum time is 90 days. That never happens within 90 days. It's going to take 6 months. It's going to take a year. All the while you're rotting in jail with no way to get out. So that's point number one. Point number two, the do-gooders who sponsored SB 10, it's the ACLU, and what's their position? They're the ones that created this shitstorm scenario, and now they're taking, quote, a neutral position, because frankly, they're pussies, okay? The position should be we're against it, because what was created was taken by the politicians, completely distorted into this new situation where I guarantee you the minorities and the poor will suffer the most. Why? Because all the factors are still going to be a problem just as they are under the current system. You don't own property. You don't have a job. You haven't been here long enough. For whatever the reasons are, it'll go into that algorithm and it'll spit out detained. Currently, under the statute that's on the books, if it was applied correctly, we wouldn't have this problem because it's supposed to be on a sliding scale. The judges are supposed to consider relative wealth. Somebody accused of a crime who's rich should be paying the, quote, bail schedule, and somebody who doesn't have the money should have reduced bail accordingly, or even an OR, depending on the circumstances. That's the current law. The problem is the law is misapplied by the judges. So now all you've done is given those same biased judges more power, more authority, more opportunity to screw us, and you will get screwed. Guarantee it. It's a very dangerous proposition because you're telling a judge for the majority of crimes that you could be charged with, it's going to be two choices, detain or release. What do you think they're going to do? Like he said, when election comes, they detain because it's safer for them. They don't want to read their names in the paper and find out that they released somebody and that person committed another crime. Also, you haven't been proven guilty, but because you're stuck in jail, your only way out is to plead guilty. They're going to give you a sweet offer. Oh, if you plead guilty, even though you didn't do it, we'll release you today. So you no longer have to worry about getting raped. You no longer have to worry about getting HIV. You no longer have to worry about tuberculosis. Aren't we nice? We're just making you plead guilty to something you didn't do. This is along the lines of the Spanish Inquisition with the same nonsense. And what kills me about it is it's sold to the public as a do-gooder statute. Oh, we're helping the poor. Oh, we're helping the people that don't have the money. You're not helping anybody. You're just screwing everyone.
Hey, Glenn. We have a terminology for that in simple, and we call it policing for profit. That's what we call it. We call it policing for profit. Basically using the law to accumulate funds for the city. We call it policing for profit. Quite frankly, that's exactly what we call it. So we experienced the same thing here. In fact, before I became as legislatively savvy, I can remember being 18 and 19 and being one of those individuals who just took whatever the public defender had to say. Whatever the public defender was going to say is exactly, if he said, you're going to take this charge and do this community service and do this probation, my friends, they were doing the same thing. I think that we have got to start calling the BS on policing for profit, basically allowing people to be as free as their money can buy. Is basically what we've been experiencing here in the Black community. And in some instances, of course, we're actually guilty. We've actually committed some of these crimes. Just being frank, we've actually committed some of the accusations that the prosecuting attorney is trying to force upon us. But the fact of the matter is that freedom should not be available to anyone based on their social ability to pay. And we have been experiencing that across the board. If we're not asking for special privileges, we're not asking for any special attention. We're just asking for the playing field to be equal. That we fall at the bottom of the line as it pertains to social development, as it pertains to as it pertains to finances, our social makeup. We're already there. And so for you to create freedom for people who can afford it is basically letting us know that you will never be free because you will never be able to afford it, and you'll never be able to afford it because we're never going to open our pockets up to give more money. It's crazy for me how the country, as a Black man, it's crazy for me as a country to know how I had to borrow money just to go to school. I had to borrow money to go to college. I had to figure out how I was going to pay for my lunch. And in the middle of nowhere, our country opens its pocketbook and pulls out how many trillions of dollars? As if it was just like a book on the, a quarter on the side of the street. And so it lets me know that this country is not deeply invested in making systemic injustices and making inequalities non-existent. And until we can have that real conversation on how we can really change the narrative, the details, the bits and pieces of details are great, but I think Black people are in a position right now to where we're no longer interested in settling for crumbs. We don't want the crumbs. We want to eat at the same table. We want to eat at the same table. Hell, half of the time we built the table. So we just want things to be equal, to be fair, and to be just. And I think if we can if Black people get a fair opportunity, I think we'll show that we could mean just as much to America as our white brothers and sisters mean. I think if Black people had a fair opportunity, I ain't talking about reparations to make us right. I'm talking about a fair, equal, and just opportunity on all fronts. I think that we have the strength and the tenacity and the brilliance, the natural born brilliance, coupled with strength. I think we have the ability to prove to America that we are far more valued when we are being valued.
Let me introduce my next guest.
Let me address that for a moment.
Go ahead, Glenn.
Yeah. So, Devonte, I heard what you said, and here's my issue with it. The same problem with what you said is the same problem with Prop 25, and this is it. And it's well-meaning, and well-meaning is great, but it doesn't get us to where we need to go, right? We keep talking about systemic change. You can't just say the word systemic change and then leave it. You got to come up with a solution, which I'm not hearing any solutions. So I'm going to give you a solution, okay? You want to stop racial preference right? That's what we're talking about here. You want to stop police brutality. You want to at least lessen it, right? I don't know that you can stop anything because there's always bad people. You got to raise the hiring standards. You got to raise the education level that you're requiring for the police officers. End of story. You want to talk about defunding, for example, that's not going to get you anywhere. You're going to take money from the police, you're going to put it to this social thing and that social thing, and let me tell you where it's going to end up. Nowhere. It's going to get squandered.
Now I am not.
Hold on. Let me finish. Let me finish. They're going to get abandoned. Okay. The solution. Here's the solution. You say you want to be a police officer. You need a 4-year degree. Any officer currently on the force, you're on probation. We're going to pay you a little extra. You're going to go to night school. You're going to earn your degree. You got 6 years to do it. You don't do it, you're done. Any new hires, you got to have a 4-year degree. You got to have it in economics. You got to have it in social psychology, the things that matter, criminal justice. Then you will see change, okay? But this Prop 25 will literally cost hundreds of millions of dollars. They haven't decided where that's going to come from. Maybe it'll be coming from the $100 billion imaginary bullet train that we'll never see. Okay. But the reality is this, we gotta come up with actual solutions. So there's your solution, raise the standards, take that stupid ass money that you were going to spend on Prop 25, which was going to take away people's freedom, and make a real change where we have police officers that are respected, that want to be police officers, that have been trained properly, educated properly, and care about their communities. And if they don't, they're fucking fired.
Devonte.
I totally agree. I agree. No, I agree.
Devonte,
Go ahead, Kristen.
Under what you're saying is you got to look at the state of Illinois, okay? They don't have bail bondsmen, okay? So what you're saying is because you're Black and you can't afford it, you should be able to be released. Well, let's take somebody that we all know. Look at R. Kelly. They gave him $1 million bond. He posted it. He got out, and they revoked it and put him back in jail. Now, I'm not saying he a good guy at all, but they took his right to have bail. That's what we're saying. See, you want to pick and choose who can get out. But the fact is, everybody is entitled to bail with as long as you don't have treason and murder. So some people you don't want to get out, and this is what's happening. Every judge has the right to give a personal bond. I mean, they can just do it on their own. So why are we refusing it? Everybody knows that with algorithms, if you got a racist person setting it, they're going to program the computer to pick it up. Period.
Yeah.
So you're gonna lose. You're gonna lose that power, because guess what? With Black people, there are some things they can write in there that's quick. Did you have both parents? Nope. Do you own any property? Nope. So that means you can run because you can just move next 2 doors down and we won't be able to find you. Oh, your parents weren't married, or you only got raised by one parent. Okay, that's going to give you a lower point. So your bail is set higher. The schedule, now let's go over to the schedule. The schedule, here where I am, bail is set in 6 months. You have to be sentenced for a misdemeanor, 1 year for a felony. That's how you set a schedule. It's not necessarily the amount, because an interim bond, how it's supposed to work is a magistrate or a police officer are supposed to set the bail high. Then when that person within 3 days to 7 days goes to court, depending on the state, goes to court and sees a judge, the judge is supposed to lower that bond so it can be affordable. Then in 2 weeks, if that person has not posted the bond, they revisit that schedule, and then they try to lower that bond again to make it affordable for that person to get out. If you did that, then you wouldn't have to worry about all this other stuff going on. The facts are they're not setting it appropriate, and you want to count everybody's nickels and dimes. No, that's not the way to do it either. Because guess what? If you don't want to deal with the justice system, don't do the crime. You don't have to worry about the time. I'm not going to break the law to go to jail because I don't want to lose my money. I don't want to lose my lifestyle. You have to have accountability. You have to have responsibility as well. I have a program called Sticky Situations. It teaches in elementary school all the way through college about credit, finances, the law, understanding the law and life skills, how the system works, how the legal loopholes work, all of that. And Waka Flocka's mom, Deb, actually uses my program. She was using the Don't Be a Dumbass Criminal program of mine, which turned into the Sticky Situations, Understanding the Law. So you got education there to make it fair, and you have understanding what is really happening. At the end of the day, nobody wants that crazy man down the street just to get out because he looks good on paper. Please, do you want that person living next door to you? Or do you want to just give somebody a ticket? So every time they get in trouble, let's give them a ticket to go to court. Hopefully by the time they figure it out, they haven't broken 20 different laws and got charged 20 million times here. And keep breaking into homes, and you're at work, they're breaking into your home constantly. Oh, okay. You have to set a bail schedule to deal with it. There has to be consequences, immediate consequences. So you need to look at it wisely. Do you guys agree with me?
Yeah, I think so. I want to, here's what I want to do. I want to address some of the issues that the yes people on Prop 25 say. They say that a money bail system forces innocent people to plead guilty. Can we discuss that? I mean,
Yeah, can I take that one? Or
sure, go ahead, go for it.
Yeah. So a money bail system, how does, if you don't have a money bail system and the majority of defendants will be detained, how does that solve that problem? It makes it worse. At least with bail, your family can come up with the money. They can raise it. There's still hope. You can apply to have it lowered. There's things that can be done. You have an option. But if you're ordered detained, there's no option. So you're certainly going to plead guilty now to get out because you have no hope. So how does this Prop 25 address that? It doesn't. It's just sold as addressing it. And to get back to her earlier point, you know, what she's saying is, look, let's take the lower level offenses. You got to have some skin in the game. In other words, if there's no guarantee that you're going to show up, if you have no skin in the game and you are a career criminal, you're just going to get out and do it again, get out and do it again. We're seeing that right now in LA because the coronavirus, they're releasing everybody, right? They're not making people post bail on most offenses. And so police officers are arresting the same joker 3-4 times the same day. I had my own car broken into and my wallet stolen, and a rash of, and the people that are doing it, they're just getting right out. They get right out, do it again. So unfortunately, the good thing about bail is it forces the defendant to have some skin in the game, and it gives them an option and a way to get out of jail where needed. And again, if you're detained, you lose your job, you can't see your kids, you can't do anything. Everyone suffers. Society suffers from that.
Can I say something?
And police get it wrong sometimes, by the way. They really do. I can tell you that.
Absolutely. Topo, same question.
Yeah, I want to say this about Jonas. And Jonas, I've never met you, and I know you're a defense attorney and what have you. I have to say this about my industry and Jonas's industry. You know, many people look at us, oh, you're like the police. You're like the police, they say. No, I'm not. Because I'll tell you what my mother and father taught me. We're not the judge and we're not the jury. Who we are people here, and what they've educated me and now my son who works in my business to do. We are here to help people get this matter resolved, get it behind them, and hope and pray that they change their ways. And I say that from the bottom of my toes, past my heart. I mean that from my heart. And that's why many people in our industry, that's what we're about. And people like Jonas who are defense attorneys, that man, yes, he's going to defend your rights, but what he wants to see is change. And I want to see change. And Devonte, a guy like you, we could partner up and we could solve problems. LeBron James, if LeBron James wants to bring it, he can solve problems. But getting out here and throwing words out and creating separation ain't going to fix it. And to you, Crystal, the same to you. I say we can fix this problem And it is about giving people help, but they're going to be sitting in jail, and that's not what I want to see.
Jules, I want to bring you into this argument. I mean, I know that you're not in the industry, but I mean, you have an opinion about it, about just releasing people that has no kind of skin in the game. What are your thoughts on that? You mute.
We have constitutional rights that need to be respected. And our freedom is something that is cherished. I read one stat, I'm not sure whether this is borne out or not by some of our experts that are here, but about 7 in 10 defendants secured release when bail was set at less than $5,000. But this proportion dropped to 1 in 10 when the bail was at $100,000 or more. What it says to me is the bail system for the vast majority of people is functional and working. I know when I look at my my AAA card, if something happens to me and there's $5,000, AAA stands in for me in terms of being able to get
That's
out.
only for tickets. That's not for real crime.
No, I got you. That's only for tickets. But I brought that up because 2 individuals in the state of California got rid of a traffic ticket bail. One was me, Jules Monterese, and the other one was Antonio Moore. I'm a Los Angeles commissioner for local governmental services. And I was able to team up with a practitioner in traffic court to appeal to get it thrown out. And that's what happened. So for 40 million people in the state of California, we don't have bail. Now, and if you get convicted, you got to pay. But you didn't have, before you had to pay up front. You had to pay your bail amount before you had your hearing. And that was eliminated in the state of California. And that's for traffic court. Now, in terms of what's happening right now, in terms of bail, I do not like SB 10. I think it's horrendous. I read the actual language, and there are so many items on there for which they can keep you behind bars that there's no way you're getting out. And you don't have the option to have a person to afford you with some leverage through a bond to get out of jail. You're not going anywhere. I think that's part of the reason why they got the support that they achieved through the legislature, because the people who voted for it realized that they weren't going to be getting out. We don't have to be concerned about public safety because they're not going anywhere. The algorithm is going to assure that. So my hat is off to those of you in the industry, certainly to Glenn, Jonas, to Topo Padilla. I don't know a lot about Crystal Banks, but you're spot on. You're all on target.
I'm a bail bondsman.
Okay, you're a bail bonds person too. Listen, you are spot on. And I'm looking forward to defeating Proposition 25. I do not want SB 10 to come into existence because it would be horrendous. Now, that being said, if people do not like taking entrance exams in order to get into universities, okay, they don't like it because there are certain questions that are being asked that are biased questions. And when you have those algorithms, it depends on the minds that put them together. And if they are biased towards blacks, browns, and any other group, okay, guess what? You're going to be behind bars and you're not going to get out unless you have the ability to use a bail bonds person. So it needs to be defeated. How it got passed? Well, part of it, my understanding is from the legislative history, is that it was sympathy. This is something that former Governor Jerry Brown always wanted to have done. He wasn't able to get it done. And then his long coattails followed him with Gavin Newsom, the current governor, and it was able to get done. So That's all I'm going to say in that regard. I just know that my personal freedom, my constitutional rights right now are at stake because the current system that we have that is working well, that is giving us, like Glenn said, skin in the game and securing the fact that the defendant is going to return for their court date or for the actual court trial. That is in jeopardy because we're going to have someone who could be you or could be me that's going to be weeks or months in jail simply because we're accused of a crime and the algorithm, that computerized, that contrived entity is going to say, no, don't release him. And I'm not going to be able to get out. And I'm going to be suffering, languishing. And especially with COVID, you know, I could even lose my life. And then you can lose your life even before COVID. But all I'm trying to say is I respect what you're doing, and we need to do everything we can to let people know how to vote. And the first thing, and this is the last thing I'm going to say about it,
You're on mute.
On mute. Can't hear you.
I'm going to say this and I'm going to be done. When you look at the ballot proposition itself, for Proposition 25, the first thing it says is, yes vote approves and a no vote rejects a 2018 law. That's clear. But for the public, they do not fully realize how to vote in order to stop it. And that has to be communicated. Yes vote approves. So we don't want to vote yes. We want to vote no, because a no vote rejects that 2018 law. So I wanted to just read it and state it because we cannot afford to be, you know, hoodwinked on an issue like this. We've got to get it straight on how to vote.
I want to ask you guys all a question, and this is a question for everybody. How do you get the yes people to understand that this is a bad bill? I mean, what do you say to them? And I'll start with you, Glenn. Can you hear me, Glenn?
I don't know what you say to them because I've said it. You know, I've said what I said in my video, but the bottom line is when you do a trial and you want a jury to go your way, you have to start with the principle that people make decisions based on their own self-interest. And they think in this situation that they're never going to get arrested. That's the problem. People think they could never be in that position. And so the fallback is, oh, I'm going to be a do-gooder. I'm going to make it so people don't have to post bail because that helps the poor. And that's the problem. That's the way it's packaged. That's the way it's sold. And so I don't know how to tell them that this is the opposite of doing something good. You're gonna cause damage. You're gonna cause people to get detained and give them no options and no way out. And that's never a good thing.
You said something to me the other day that stuck with me, which was very important, but I bring it up here today. You said that you could lose your temper and that could be you in jail, stuck behind bars, if this Proposition 25 passes. I mean.
Yeah, thanks for bringing that up. Now the whole world knows. But that's, look, that's a fact. I mean, anybody can either be accused of something they didn't do or have a bad moment. You know, I have lots of clients that are regular people with no prior record that we're in a situation where things came to a climax and they made a bad decision. Now, are they going to be in a position, should we put them in this position where they lose everything? I mean, think about the ramifications of being stuck in jail for 90 days to 6 months while you're waiting for your trial. You can't pay your mortgage. For one, how you can't earn a living.
Right.
You can't take care of your family. You can't take care of your kids. I mean, this is, so who would knowingly vote for a position like that where you're taking away your own options? And so what I'd say is you can make a mistake and end up arrested, or you could be falsely accused. Either of those things can happen. And I'll say this one thing. I've had judges on my back, writing me the entire trial, making me miserable, screwing me as good as they could screw me. I end up winning, okay? And ultimately, who's referring me their nephew? That same goddamn judge. The one that made my life miserable. Because now all of a sudden they understand my job. A month earlier, they didn't. People have to understand that anyone could be in the position of a defendant. And when you are, the entire government is against you. You've got nothing. You've got nothing. And now they're going to take what little you had, which is maybe a way out of there pending trial, and remove that from you. I mean, how stupid can you be to vote for that?
You're absolutely right. Crystal, same question.
You know, this whole innocent till proven guilty, first of all, people don't even realize how the system works. When I say that, they don't realize that there has to be a complaint made. They have to go and have some type of proof. And once they get a proof, they have to go to a prosecutor that agrees, puts it into an area and says, okay, this is what I'm going to charge them with, then takes it to a judge to get a warrant. First of all, if you don't even know the steps, you would think automatically that, oh, somebody just did something, got caught, and they're getting charged. No, you got to understand how this system works first. Then you got to look at how it is. Okay, now, I don't want that guy who has gotten ticket after ticket after ticket, and he's not paying his tickets because he don't have no money in the first place. So he continues to get tickets, and that's free until you go and deal with it. Okay, let's look at crime. If you keep breaking the law and they keep giving you tickets to come back to court, which is what that's where they're trying to take it. They're trying to say that if there's no bail and we have this algorithm system, you're going to be released. That's the lie that they tell you. They make you feel like, oh, if I don't have to pay no money, somebody gonna come and save me. Ain't nobody gonna come save you. We understand the fact is you did something. Now, maybe it may not be what they say you did, but you were somewhere, wrong place, wrong time. You got caught up. You got charged with a crime. And now that you're charged with this crime, now you want to cry and like, oh, I ain't got no money. You ain't had no money. I get them all the time. They call me and say, hey, you know, I'm in jail. I have kids. You had kids when you was stealing from Walmart too. Matter of fact, they was in the car. And don't give me that. But that is what they want to do. They want to play on your emotions and say, hey, we're going to let you go if there's no bail. No, that is not what's going to happen. We're going to keep you. Because like I said, the judge already has the right to give you a personal recognizance or your own recognizance, whatever it's called in your state. So if they say, nah, I'm not comfortable with just releasing you, what they going to do? They're going to keep you. And then nobody's going to give you a discount because that's what bail is. It's insurance. It's just like you got a car. If you have a car and you don't insure it and you total it, you just jacked up. But if you at least got some insurance and full coverage on it, guess what? You got some money coming back to buy another one. You don't want to lose that option. Everybody needs an option. Would you stop using a coupon? No, you wouldn't. Everything has a meaning, a dollar figure on it, and nobody would go, you just don't want to give away the power. Right. You may need it one day.
There's a couple cases.
Hey, Tony, sorry to cut you off. I got to roll, buddy.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you very much, Glenn. Appreciate you, and we'll be getting back with you again.
Okay,
before you go, Glenn, before you go,
yeah,
I want to thank you, and I want to produce your TV show because you belong on TV, and I mean that from my heart, man. You're compassionate about what you do, and we need more people like you. You're for both sides of the aisle, and God bless you for that.
Thank you. Take care. Bye-bye.
My last question for you guys is this. There are two cases or three cases that people talk about: the Humphreys case and the Khalif Broader case. One out of on the East Coast, one on the West Coast in California. Topo, this question is to you. What would you say about this Humphreys case? And I know we've talked about it before, but why don't you kind of explain that?
Well, on the Humphreys case, what everybody looks at is the 74-year-old Mr. Humphreys, who had an extensive criminal record, I think 4 strikes, strikeable offenses, convictions, went and took a gentleman who was way older than him, who was using a walker, took him in and pushed him down through the walker in the corner, put a pillow over his head. And I paused there and say, okay, and he was an African-American gentleman as well. Okay, but that's not what we're worried about, is what they're saying. That's why they're using him on the Humphreys case on a TV commercial, and it is disgusting. It is disgusting because that man had a pillow put over his face. And the reason that Humphreys only took $5 and he took a bottle of cologne is because that's all that man had. And I ain't seen nobody speak up for that man. And if somebody does right now, it's going to be like, oh, you're propping him up because you want to win. No, I'm propping him up because that is a victim of a crime. That is what about him? Humphreys made his bed. Now, what I do agree about the Humphreys case is that Humphreys case in the First District Court of Appeals, and was just upheld, and it should be the law of the land in California, but it's not, is that bail shall be set based on what a person that is in custody can afford. But what attorneys did, and I'm bummed that Glenn's gone, what attorneys were doing, and I watched it in Sacramento, where I'm based in, going there, well, my client can only afford a $350 bond. Well, he's in here for his 3rd drunk driving and driving on a suspended license. We can't do that. And attorneys got greedy and they screwed it up, and judges were afraid to do it. But that's the Humphreys case. I do believe there's good merit behind the Humphreys. I do believe that bail could be and should be set. There has to be a carrot and a stick. The carrot is, hey, go to court and take care of this. The stick is, if you don't, whack. You go to states, and I'll close it up with this. You go to states like Idaho, Florida, Alabama. You steal a car, have a gun, and I am not kidding, your bail could be $1,500. $1,500. You think, number one, somebody could pay $1,500 and not come back and not lose any sleep over that. And the bondsman, why am I as a bail bondsman go out and risk my life to return this person for $1,500? So there has to be a balance and equity. If I can fit this in, if you don't mind, Tony, when you talk about how do we get people to understand this, it's about education. The problem we have in California, we are one of the states, because not every state has ballot initiatives in the United States of America. We do, and we unfortunately do. We do, I say, because I think it is a great thing that we as citizens can do. It's a horrible thing because they are abused, misused. If you look at Proposition 6, the gas tax, everybody I talked to said, I voted no on that damn thing. I didn't want a gas tax. Well, if you voted no, you voted for the gas tax. And the same thing goes here. It is going to be a situation of education. And I will just close with saying this. When you have people like Steve Ballmer, who threw in $5 million on their side, one of the owners of Netflix threw in $250,000. John Arnold has invested interest in this because he's got the algorithm program. They throw in this money. They are going to out-educate us. But when you have people like Alice Huffman, the state chair of the NAACP, that has come out against this, and they put out a thing because she's been paid all this money. The hell with that. Alice Huffman's a very intelligent lady. She understands what Jules understands, and she understands it, got it, educated herself, and now she wants to educate the people she represents. So thank you for letting me get that in.
Well, wait a minute. We got to talk about Khalif Brown because they gave half the information there. You got a young kid who was in jail. They never talk about how he had more than one case. They just said he couldn't afford $300. He sat in jail and he killed himself because he couldn't get out, and they kept prolonging his case. First of all, he was on probation, so it wasn't his first rodeo. You got to understand, there are some things that they very much failed to talk about. And if they would have had a better schedule and stopped pushing it back and pushing it back and pushing it back, they could have dealt with it. In our state, Michigan, we have a schedule after 2 weeks the first 2 weeks, your court dates are every 2 to 3 weeks. So you're not going to generally fall through the cracks like that, but you can't give the farm away at the end of the day. And that's what's happening. They're giving away half information here when it comes down to bail. You want to be safe? You want somebody to monitor bail. That's what bail bondsmen do. We watch it. We want to make sure they are showing up to court and justice is fair. They're doing their job. Everybody knows a family member who don't have, a pot to piss in nor a window to throw it out of to come up and say, oh, I'll vouch for them. You can't take care of nothing. You can't handle yourself. So you can't vouch for anybody, but yet you want to let them back out into the streets? Get out of here with that. We're bail bondsmen. We're here for you to help you during your need, your worst time. We're going to help you understand how this system is really going to be going to work and how to help you understand how to make it work for you instead of against you. And that's what's happening with African Americans. They think the system is completely against them. No, you just don't understand the system. If you understood it, you would have shut your mouth when you got arrested. Just like the police aren't talking crazy to you because they know it's going to be used against them if they do. So what I'm saying is, don't put yourself in a sticky situation by over talking, not knowing your rights, not educating yourself, and listening to half the facts. If you want to get this to work, you got to talk to both sides of the table, the no's and the yeses, and then you can come out with some common ground. But everybody knows money talks, BS walks.
Absolutely, absolutely. No, appreciate that. I had a little technical difficulty. I kind of went out for a second, but I want to give everybody an opportunity for final thoughts as we wind this down. And we'll start with you, Jules. Why don't you give us your final thoughts on this, on Prop 25?
All right. In listening to what was being said, I broke it down into something very, very simple. Okay. Bail equals freedom. No bail, no freedom. Vote no. No bail, no freedom. Vote no. If we just realize what is at stake, our freedom, we will make sure that we keep the current bail system in place, and we will work on those bail schedules. We'll get to the bottom of it. As a matter of fact, from discussing today, I can assure you that I will bring it before the Local Governmental Services Commission, and we will consider how we can get those schedules changed to make them more equitable.
Good words. Crystal?
Yes.
Final thoughts?
I would say, if you are going to eliminate bail, you better have a good plan to fix what you're about to destroy. Go and look into the states that got rid of bail and see how fast they brought it back when crime quadrupled, no accountability was held. So I would tell you, of course, to vote no, and you need to talk to the people, and that's exactly what you tell. Go look at the states like Alaska that got rid of them, or New Mexico for a minute, they got rid of bail, only for them to find out that when somebody committed a crime, they were right back out on the street. You're like, wait a minute, that's not what it was supposed to be for. No, you have to understand accountability is what's going to help. So you have to say no to Proposition 25, Proposition 25, in order for you to have a voice. And that's what needs to be said. You need a voice, you have to keep it in play. Now you can figure it out later, but you have to keep it in place, because the alternative is it's gonna get real crazy in your state, and you don't want to get robbed by the wrong person because they fell through the cracks. They knew what to say on the algorithm system.
Topo, you have the last word. You have home court advantage there in California that you're up against this Proposition 25. Give me your final thoughts, please, sir. You're muted.
Thank you, Tony and Jules, Crystal, and I guess the other folks left. I'm sad they did, because I just hope and pray people are listening to this. You know, in summary, the reason that we do not want to let them eliminate the constitutional right to bail is not only for the person that is arrested, their family and their friends, but it is for the victims of crime. It is for our communities. You see, people say that the United States is one of only 2 countries that has bail. And I wear that with a badge of honor, because the rest of these countries in this world ought to follow our suit. Because as I tell people, go commit a crime in Mexico, go commit a crime in India, go commit a crime in Russia, go commit a crime and see what happens to you. You're not going to like it. So I'm proud to say that the United States is one of the 2 countries, aside from the Philippines, that has bail. And we cannot let them extinguish this constitutional right, because it will not serve the people that are yet arrested or the victims of crime in our communities. And finally, and this is the part that people really got to understand, the taxpayer is going to pay for this. Well, folks, we're taxed out. So what money are they going to use if this thing passes November 4th, say, and they implement it when it's certified? What money are they going to use? They're not, because they have a pilot program going on right now in California. $76 million was doled out to 13 counties. The counties are in turmoil because everybody wants to grab the money to try the program out, but not enough people were released. And I'm going to finally say this. Think about the people that are going to implement these systems. Say John Arnold, who has an algorithm system. He's going to want his system to work. He's going to want people to show up to court. He's not going to want in and go show the county, hey, look, I've got a 72% appearance rate, you know, and these people failed to appear. He's not going to want to say that. So they are going to make this thing stringent because they want people and they want this to be successful. I'll close by saying the bail bond industry has an over 98% success rate in making sure that people go to court. And that's because we build bonds with our customers, the ones who bail out of jail, their families and friends. That's what we do. And we do it because we do care about people. Yes, we make money, but don't use that against us, because I will use it against you.
Thank you, Topo. You know, I also want to say this also before we end, that you know the offer is still extended to the Yes on 25 people. You know, they were invited today, last minute decided not to attend. I want to thank you, Crystal Banks, Jules Bonaris, Topo Padilla. I also want to thank Waka Flocka, Devante Hill, and Glenn Jonas. Thank you guys, and tune in next time for our next podcast. Thank you so much. Appreciate it.